Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial. Go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Hello, welcome to Mount Rushmore. My name's Jeff, and I'm joined as always by my good buddies Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
And Richard and Michael make an appointment every day. Sometimes they go into Outlook and they get a room, and they have to reserve that room, and they send out an Outlook meeting invite for each other, and then they get together and they have a meeting. And they have a meeting in which they debate the top 4 things of any given topic. And this episode of Mount Rushmore is no different, in which we do the Mount Rushmore of things about business meetings. Who chose this?
I believe this was mine, and I think I came up with it. I think might have actually been a pre-show or post-show kind of slap-ass, kind of grab-ass session that we were doing around here.
Don't put this on us. This is all you.
And I think
this is a classic business meeting thing right here.
Right.
Blamestorming.
I think we were just bitching about like various business meetings we had been in recently, and I think
There's
that's just
been
sort
bad behavior on both sides.
Yeah, so look, there's very aggressive people in these meetings.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of came from some of us or all of us. There's a conversation recently about that.
Yeah,
I kind of sprung from there.
We got it. Drunk at work.
Drunk at work. Some people might imagine that we, the Mount Rushmore guys, are 3 wealthy entertainers. You know, that us, we're the elite podcasters that we are.
Right.
So we don't live in your real world where you have meetings.
Well, what you don't know is that every day the 3 of us go to our Mount Rushmore office, which is located in Mount Rushmore.
Right.
We take our personal helicopters, fly there every day.
In Roosevelt's mustache is where the boardroom is.
We check in and check out like the wolf. What was his name?
Yeah.
The sheepdog and the wolf.
Yeah.
George.
Sheepdog and the wolf. Flick.
Ralph and George. Yeah. So, okay. Richard, you chose it.
I chose. So, Michael, you go first.
Michael, you go first.
My first choice.
Totally just did Jeff's job there for him. Totally.
You guys do my job all the time.
Totally just went over his top.
Totally.
Went right over his head.
Thank you for
Go
doing
ahead.
that.
My first choice is AV stuff that's on the brink.
Oh, also on my list.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Should be on everyone's list.
Well, I have it as, okay, I think we want to keystone this. We just hit this button and fuck.
Yeah, it's a long title.
It's a long title. I don't know if that's going to fit into Twitter.
Richard has AV stuff and AVN stuff, too. So. Office.
Also DVDA stuff.
DVD.
God, I hope none of that comes up in my next meeting that I'm in.
So AV troubles.
It can be anything from Skype going down, where the company that I work for is a staffing company, and we used to do a lot of like meetings and interviews that were set up from like Kinko's when it was Kinko's, and then it turned into FedEx Kinko's.
Yeah.
They tried to get that going for a while and it didn't work, and then FedEx was just like, forget it, you're out of here, Kinko's. No one remembers you. And now it's just FedEx Office, which no one goes into anymore.
My kids will never know Kinko's.
That's kind of sad.
Sad thing, yeah.
Now,
let's pour one out for Kinko's. Pour out a little bottle of correction tape.
Who was the fast-talking Kinko's salesman who came into your office and said, hey, you love us for the high-priced bookbinding. Why don't we do your AV systems? Is that what?
Well, we used to have like just one in some of like the some of the conference rooms.
Yeah.
There would be like a huge, always brand new TV and camera that was precariously balanced on top of it somehow that never looked like it worked.
Yeah.
And, in the center of the table, there's like the tri-corner.
Yeah, that
Hat?
guy.
Like a hat? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a throwing star. You could pick it up.
Or a tricorder. It's actually just
And
leftover
ultimately,
Star Trek
like you're
crap.
trying to communication the objective. You're trying to accomplish the objectives of the meeting, but you can't even talk to the Sedalia, Missouri office because it's getting
You're on one
glitchy.
system. Sedalia's on another system. You're the guy that sold you the equipment in the first place is convinced you that this is top of the line. Of course it's going to work. It's foolproof. It's all you got to do is enter the correct IP address and give them your password, and they have to use. And it never quite gets there.
Yeah,
it's so perfect. Like in theory.
Yeah.
Like the way they explain it, it's like, look, all you got to do is this, and you're like, okay, write this down, do that. then you got to do this. Okay, do that.
All right.
And then by the time it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 6 o'clock on the East Coast, and you it's never going to connect.
And then invariably, the person who sold you this system is nowhere to be found when it actually starts fucking up. Suddenly they're on like a 3-month sabbatical to like the Bahamas or something, and whoever's taking over for him has no idea how to fix anything.
I will tell you, though, that I probably would blame myself more often for using the systems poorly. How many times I shout into a speakerphone?
Like that's making
like
it
a
better.
bonehead
Like it's a foreign person who doesn't understand your language.
Yeah.
Those little microphones that come with all that you can set, kind of set around the table.
Yeah.
They can pick up from across the room.
They can pick up from across the room, but I'm going, let's level set before we get started. Jeff, we can hear you just fine. Or motioning for the girl who's talking to get closer to the microphone. They can hear her just freaking fine.
Yeah, conference calls are their own level of hell, and you don't have conference calls specifically on there, do you? Okay, because I was talking about this with Sarah, and one of the things she mentioned was always exciting, you're on a conference call, somebody goes on hold because they want to talk to somebody else who comes in their office, but then hold music comes on. So suddenly, like the 20 other people in your conference call all hear hold music for like the 3 minutes you do this. I've never had that happen, but I have a lot of the... So we have a video conferencing system that our company spent way too much money on and still manages to absolutely suck.
Yeah.
And one of the problems we have is that invariably 4 or 5 people will be in the same room, all using the same video conferencing system on their laptop. And the second that somebody tries to speak, somebody forgot to turn off their speaker or somebody forgot to turn off their mic.
Yeah.
And just horrible squealing, feedbacky John Zorn sounding crap.
Yeah.
Until somebody figures out, oh, guys, can you go on mute for God's sakes?
I work for a large family entertainment company, and their hold music...
Is it related to AVN?
Yeah, AVN. Whether you are on a meeting where they're discussing who they're going to lay off, or whether they're discussing how far behind on a project you are, or how much over budget, they still play... everybody's got a laughing place, oh, 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 on the intercom, or in the tiki room. Like, oh, kill me now, please kill me.
I think what ultimately always happens is that no matter what, if the CEO is going to be in that meeting, nothing is going to work.
Yeah,
it might work for like the underlings,
right?
Or like when the AV techs are like setting it up on that first day, and they're showing some of the other people like, look how great it is, boop boop boop. Then the CEO wants to get in there, and then,
I feel like the more money your company has spent investing in an audio or video system, the more likely it is to completely break down on a regular basis. Well, it's like the technology is just...
You're always playing catch-up.
Yeah, and your infrastructure cannot... There's something about, like, your infrastructure cannot handle this new technology you're bringing on board. Like with our video stuff, it's just constantly buffering and dropping out just because, it's a resource hog. There's only so much internet in our office, and it takes up most of it.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So we have started, and we both started on the same note with AV stuff. So, Richard, what is your second choice?
All right. So we're ordering lunch. So let's see. 1, 2, 3 people want Chinese. 3 people want burgers, and 1, 2, 3 people want Greek.
A Greek Chinese burger.
That's what we're having.
Yeah.
Okay. Is pizza okay with everybody? Yes, we can get a veggie pizza. That's pretty much like every time we ever have. Every lunch meeting I've ever had has kind of devolved into this.
Pro tip, business people out there, you don't have to order a veggie pizza. Just order a cheese pizza, and it's fine.
Or a vegan pizza. No, there's always like the one vegan in the office.
No, get rid of them. Fire them. Let's have a meeting to get rid of them.
How about some salad? Salad's delicious.
What is the biggest? Is it because now you're talking to the Pizza King here, so it's not that pizza is bad.
It's not pizza itself.
Variety is good.
It's just that pizza is the fallback every time, so you wind up having multiple pizzas.
Isn't that funny?
A month.
If we were in Hungary, the fallback would be goulash.
Right.
Oh well, let's get goulash. I guess it's goulash again. I mean, nobody doesn't like goulash.
I mean, just Couldn't you get me a veggie goulash?
Can we get yeah, this guy.
Looking flat over here.
A veggie goulash again. Whatever.
That was Jeff Hopkins' Hungarian impersonation.
Perfect.
Yeah, really good. It's just that it's one of those things where it's like you've had a meeting for a couple of hours probably at this point, and it's like, okay, I finally get a break. I finally get to eat. And then it's going to be like 5-10 minutes of everybody being passive-aggressive about what they want to eat, and nobody making a decision. People doing that, well, I had Chinese yesterday, but that's fine. That's fine. If you guys want to get Chinese, I will totally be okay. That's fine.
They're going to fall on their chopsticks on that one.
They truly are.
Do you have the bully? We have whenever we go out for a happy hour, there's the bully who decides that everybody likes the thing he likes.
Oh,
and
nice.
This guy loved sauteed mushrooms.
Oh,
I think
I think we've discussed him before, yeah.
Well, I think we all here like sauteed mushrooms. Am I right? Okay, 4 sauteed mushrooms, please. And so there's like 1 chips and salsa and 4 and he just eats them all because nobody else wants to eat sauteed mushrooms.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's, where are we getting it from? Okay. And I guess maybe that's part of my problem with pizza, is if it's at a business meeting, they're not getting, the best pizza down the street, the hole in the wall kind of great pizza. They're getting Domino's, or they're getting the Big Mamas and Papas, 500-foot pizza that they actually have to like haul open like a window to like ship in through a crane or something like that.
Yeah, Hyundai built a vehicle just for the pizza. It was,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so that is your second choice, Richard. Michael, what's your second?
Well, I'm glad you brought up food, because when my boss says, Iron Mountain wants to take us out to lunch, you know what my answer is? Absolutely, I want to go out to lunch.
Nice.
Someday we might get to the Mount Rushmore of leftovers.
Oh.
Which might
that's a pretty good one.
Which might include not eating your leftovers.
Yeah.
Especially if there's like free food in the office or going out to lunch. But this is that thing that happens at a business meeting when you're going out to like a lunch meeting with a vendor who's invited you out. So one, they're paying for it, even though you do that thing at the end of the lunch where there's like
grabbing
the waitress leaves like the the little check stand,
like the fake.
and no one grabs for it, and for like 3 minutes you're like, wait, was this us? Who set up the meeting? Did we invite them? And then they grab it, and you're like, man, I wish I got that other appetizer. Even though the company's paying for it, and you don't actually care. You're just like, you wish you were kind of the bigger man.
Yeah.
But I love the lunch meeting with a vendor where 45 minutes of the hour of lunch is spent not talking about business. You're just kind of talking about your kid.
Or eating.
You're just kind of chit-chatting.
Yeah.
You're not talking about your account.
Yeah.
And then for 7 minutes at the end, you try to cram in, well, okay, let's talk about your account. And here they pull out the full presentation binders, and you're like, oh, I'll just take it back to the office and not read it there.
Yeah.
No, let's see, those meetings give me, I don't have to have those anymore. We don't have
They usually happen at
that I
Red
deal with.
Robin. They usually happen at Islands. Those are the 2 places that they're only technically allowed to have.
TGI Fridays.
Yeah,
Also?
allowed. Yeah, you can do it there.
Bennigan's. Is a Bennigan still a thing?
God, I hope so.
No, see, those are the type of meetings. I don't have to have those anymore, but those give me the heebie-jeebies. I don't like people.
Okay, well, there you go.
I barely like the people. I barely like the people I work with. Fine enough. But I don't want to have to deal with any more people in my life. And the older I get, the less interested I am in small talk.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys notice this in your lives, but just as I'm getting older, it's just maybe I realize I only have so much time left on this earth. Like my clock is just like,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't have time for this bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm always secretly impressed by the people you go out with that you talk to maybe a couple times a year or see in person 3-4 times a year, and they're able to remember like the details of your life. Like that's impressive.
Oh.
With the exception of the place that we get our copiers from. Every time this guy brings up kickball.
Oh no.
And like I barely want to talk about kickball I don't talk about kickball at work, when I played 2 years ago for 10 years. And then it was one of those things that was just like, yeah, still doing it.
Because you're Mr. Kickball now.
I know. But like, and that was a thing that I always had to like explain and re-explain over and over. That's why I never would tell people, because would never quite understand. So
Yeah.
I started to sing softball. Because you don't have to explain softball.
Yeah, I did
and
that
it's-
too.
And it's boring
Or
enough.
soccer.
Yeah.
I would do
Yeah.
soccer.
Mm.
That'd be mine.
Mhm.
Like if I had any sort of injury.
We
Well, I was
just
playing
think
soccer.
over a networking and lunch, you must network, or you must do the business small talk that can be so awkward and painful, and I'm so bad at it.
Yeah.
And it reveals that they have so much. In my case, I work for a big company, but we have very small budgets, and often people take us out to lunch with this optimism that they've tapped into a gold mine. And I want to tell them, we're broke. You're getting nothing out of this.
They want to order drinks and martinis and beer, and you're like,
Yeah.
We're having iced teas.
Yeah.
And I see
Unlimited.
water. Please.
You're wooing us.
But that's always exciting. Okay, is the client getting a beer? Okay, client's getting a beer.
Yeah.
Good. I can get a beer. We're cool.
Yeah. Do you also find yourself like I have to have my corporate self together, kind of my mindset on. So half the time I feel like I'm not even me.
Oh,
you know?
sure, yeah.
So it's just,
Oh, sure. Yeah, you're corporate Jeff.
yeah.
You slip on your Patrick Bateman mask.
Yeah.
and pull out your business
Totally.
cards and bone.
But then every once in a while the guy starts to be his cool guy self. Like, hey, the other day we went to an escape room. It was mind blowing. Like, I don't know. You're not so fucking cool.
I just feel like I've never had anything in common with anyone I've ever had a business meeting with.
Yeah.
Like they're talking about whatever their cool shit is they think is cool. And it's like, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I went sailing the other day, huh? Huh.
Ah.
What's a boat? That's cool.
Yeah.
On a boat, huh? That's
Yeah.
where you go sailing? On a boat?
Is that it? Is that it?
Okay. And then it's like 10 minutes of him talking about a boat while I'm mentally just sort of gone.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, we're halfway through, and before we plead with you to download, rate, and review our podcast, we want to suggest using Audible. Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you, yes, you, the opportunity to check out their service. So if you want to learn how to get out of meetings or make meetings better, you might go to Audible and listen to Boring Meetings Suck, Get More Out of Your Meetings, or Get Out of More Meetings by John Petz. That's there on Audible. There's 180,000 other titles on Audible. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Rushmore. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Rushmore for your free audiobook. Audible aside, we'd like to ask you to download, rate, and review the past episodes and the present episodes of our podcast. Please go to iTunes, go to Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, and please join the dialogue online at our Facebook page and Twitter and Instagram. We'd appreciate to hear your voice. Meet up with us and let us know what you think would be awesome for us to talk about. So, we are back. I believe now, Richard, you're going to lead us off with our third.
Okay. Yep. So my next one is, so why am I here again? I seriously need to be in this meeting for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the struggle of being look, sometimes you need to have a business meeting. Most of the time you don't. 90% of the stuff that happens in business meetings can happen with a phone call or
Sure.
an email.
Yeah.
Or just sort it out yourself, guys. But invariably, and this happened, I mentioned, I think, that our company was going through, I may not have mentioned this, that our company this last year redid our website, and we had a outside vendor that we worked with. And I wound up getting on every phone call, whether it was content writing, which is what I do, or HTML coding or design or act-on plugins or any of this crap that really has nothing to do with me. But invariably my boss would go, well, why don't you come out on the call? Just, be good for you know what's going on. You might be able to contribute something. Nope. And
Just like this podcast.
This podcast.
nope. No, and so I just wind up, guys, I sleep a lot. And I'd like to sleep more. And being in an hour and a half meeting where I'm not needed and not contributing, the struggle is real for me not to literally just fall asleep.
snooze.
The fact that I haven't fallen asleep in a meeting yet is just a minor miracle. But it's just, again, there's so many of these meetings where it's just, why are we not just talking on the phone for 5 minutes? Why are we doing this? It's like, it's this whole charade that people have to do. It's like if you have a meeting, suddenly it's more important. It elevates you. It elevates the people around you. Like, oh, we're doing some serious work here, guys. We have a meeting scheduled.
Yeah.
Versus like, well, here's this thing we need. Click, click, click. Send an email.
Sure.
Get it back,
Yeah.
and we're done.
Well, what's the now? Do you bring people into meetings that they don't need to be involved in?
I try not to.
Okay.
I'm usually the dope who gets kind of drug into it.
I find that I have so many people that I add to meetings just out of courtesy, that they'll have a peripheral contribution to it, or that they have some kind of stake in it, or something like that.
Huh. I'm trying to think when I was a manager, did boss stuff. I really hated business meetings, so I would just try to avoid scheduling them as much as I could.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
there's
the trick.
probably also kind of like a cover your ass aspect of it too. It's like, well, if you were invited and you didn't go, and the thing that was important to you, that was in your kind of realm of what we need to get done, didn't get done, then, well, that's on you for not attending the meeting. You could have.
Right.
Why didn't you go to the meeting? You didn't accept.
Or I get this sometimes, again, because drifting off into nothingness as I do in these meetings. Meeting gets done. So, what's your thoughts about that? The thing we talked about? Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
I've had the meeting after the meeting. So, hey, that was some fucked up shit, right? Yeah, we're not going to do that. Well, why didn't you say that in the fucking meeting?
Right. What's the point here?
Okay.
Well,
Michael?
that kind of leads to my next one, which is when the meeting agenda goes out the window.
Uh-huh.
When all of a sudden you're there and you've printed up, you've made the itinerary of what you're supposed to talk about. You kind of have it bullet pointed. You have a couple pages of what we're going over.
Yeah.
Then the CEO, the one that kind of screwed up your AV system earlier,
Yeah.
he walks in and all of a sudden everything changes.
Yeah.
Whatever you thought you were talking about is not being talked about.
Mhm.
And 100% of the time he is, or she, is not reading anything that you put together.
Yeah.
So all the work that you put into is just, what's the
Yeah.
point of me being here? They have their own agenda. They have their own things they want to address and bring up. And usually it's nothing to do with what they think, what you know is important for them to know, they don't think is important.
Yeah.
They work on such a different level of just like operations, which is why they're like the CEO. They have like this big picture mindset, and all the little detail stuff is just like, listen, they don't need to know anything.
Or they're insane like Trump, and they just throw speak off prompt or throw out the agenda.
I'm part of this like weekly meeting that covers like IT and infrastructure, but then also like facilities and like office moves, and it's bullet pointed. It's very specific because there are certain things that have to happen.
Yeah.
On a week-by-week basis and a monthly, and you kind of project things. And I don't know how many times, not the CEO, but like the CIO, like the Chief Information Officer, has come in and just like railroaded the meeting.
Oh, wow.
And then it's just like, and then you're just like, you can't do anything. He's your boss's boss, and like they're running it. And then you realize that they're going to reschedule this meeting for some other time, or put it in an email, or do the worst of all is when they say, well, just ping me.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, no, who talks like that? These weird CIO guys talk like that. They were just like, well, just ping me. And you're just like, you're not going to read the email I send you. If it's less than like a paragraph, maybe, but don't try to send an email note, like don't send them the document, because that's, they're never reading that.
And so, like, in this case, the COO, CIO, whatever the big shot is basically like a big lapdog that just kind of gets brought in, a big dumb dog that just gets brought into the meeting, like an overexcited Labrador. Just kind of comes in, knocks shit over, drools, eats some paperwork, and then runs back out, and everyone's like, what just happened here?
Yeah, part of me would be excited if there was like a big Richard Branson type CEO in the office that was just like gregarious and like loves life and loves everything, and then you're just like, oh no, nothing gets done.
No. Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
There is kind of that, I feel like at Disney, I outed myself. There was a sense that when Walt Disney was there, everybody else had to be working very hard to animate the 24 cells that it takes to make a movie, and he could come in at any point and say, did I say 6 dwarves? No, we're going to have 7 dwarves. And then they had to go add a dwarf to everything, you know, or I meant 9 dwarfs. And they got to add
That's
2
how
more.
Doc got in there.
Yeah,
Right.
totally Doc.
Who's
He
the,
was
one
a
who's the one that doesn't do anything, that has a weird name that's
yeah.
different from everyone
Well,
else?
we don't want to rewrite the scripts. Hey, Dopey, he doesn't say anything. You know?
I got an idea. Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty. Easier to animate. She's just lying down there the whole time. But you have the feeling that there's this person who's they're guiding the ship ultimately, but the course correcting is not their job at all. You know, they're
right.
maybe they're one blowing the wind in the sail or something like that. And then I also forget that each meeting, really the topic they're all discussing is how do we keep our fucking jobs? That's really the agenda of every meeting. And then when the boss walks in, oh yeah, kissing this guy's ass. That's the number one thing on our agenda.
And see, then I think you have the other type of boss's boss who comes in and wants to get really detail oriented about stuff that he doesn't like, that's not important. Like, I think it's kind of what you were alluding to earlier, right? So you've got like the big picture guy who just wants to kind of come in and like, okay, I see this, and this, let's go, and who gives a shit about all this other stuff you were talking about, just like totally blows up the agenda.
Yeah.
Then there's the guy who comes in and is like, so I noticed in this one bullet point, so you said that we're going to be using, 20 this, but why are we make this decision again? It's like the dumbest like thing that doesn't really matter, but suddenly you're spending half of your meeting trying to placate your boss's boss.
Yeah,
who has
you're
questions about
explaining
this.
why you're now moved on to Cat 5 cables when you used to use Cat 3.
Yeah.
and It's this much more expensive, and listen, it's this much per foot, but we're planning for the future. And this is just the way everything is going, so we can't... So, but it would save us $14,000 in the long... It's just like, yes, it would if we went to this lesser... Well, we should really circle back on that.
Well,
Don't circle back on anything.
ping me on it, and we can. So this kind of ties into, I think, my last one a little bit here. So if we're good, we can just roll into that. Mine is the person who needs to talk to justify their participation in a meeting, even though they have nothing to say or contribute. And sometimes that can be the boss's boss type person who is in this meeting for some reason and you don't know why. And it should be a smooth meeting. There's no issues really to deal with. But then suddenly they got to jump in.
They're there to repeat the last thing that something was said, so it sounds like they said it.
Yeah, that's a very good move. Or if that boss's boss is in the meeting and somebody wants to try and score some brownie points, make themselves look good. Yeah, it's just rehashing everything that was said, but trying to do it in a way so it makes it sound like you're the person who made that point.
Did Richard just say the thing that I said, but he took twice as long to say
Yes,
what I just
I
said?
did.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So one thing, I was talking to Sarah about this, and I didn't include this specifically, although I think it kind of ties to this.
Yeah, don't give him any points for this. This is my least favorite thing that he
I know
does.
it's Michael's pet peeve, is just the idea of mansplaining, and I've never really had to see this too much. I've just either worked in PR for a long time, or I had a lot of just a very female-driven industry. For my current job, we have a lot of female executives, so it's not as much of an issue. But I know she's mentioned that there have been a lot of times where she'll show up in a meeting, or another female will be in a meeting and make a point, and it kind of gets ignored. And then 5 minutes later, some other male coworker counterpart will restate basically the exact same point, and we'll go, "Oh, that's a great idea. Why didn't we think of that before?"
And he did, but he didn't say it in an emotional frenzy. He was
Oh, that's
using
true.
logic.
He was not hysterical while he was saying it.
Yes.
He had a much deeper commanding voice.
If only there was a presidential election that this played out for in full.
Always comes back to that, doesn't it?
So mansplaining is a peeve. Yeah.
Well, mansplaining, I think, is related to the whole basic concept of just restating something, or just someone having to speak and maybe bring something up that's completely tangential to the actual topic. It's almost like it's the business meeting version of pivoting as a like a politician.
It's the person that is trying to justify their existence at the meeting by just reiterating, saying the last
It's look, guys. There's only there's a finite number of things that you can actually say in a business meeting.
Yeah.
Any meeting has there's only a certain number of things that you can actually talk about, and everyone's got to make a point, man. And if all those points have been made and there's nothing left salient to say, somebody's got to get in there and just sort of look at the carcass of the meeting and just start picking at the bones.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Michael, the last agenda item on this meeting is your choice, your fourth choice.
And Richard's, the carcass thing you said was gruesome, but it kind of leads into my last choice, which is business meetings as a microcosm for survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
And whether you're throwing someone under the bus or just being ready to pounce on a mistake in a meeting, these things are often kind of full of these people that are just waiting for like the smallest, smallest moment where they can move up from assistant to the vice president to assistant vice president.
Yeah. If you've got a little speck of blood on you, that means they're going to start pecking at that thing. Yeah.
There was a guy at my office that he worked in the telecom department, and he was very famous for being underprepared for things. Mike K. I won't use his last name, even though he hasn't worked for our company for like 8 years, and I doubt he even knows what a podcast is.
Yeah.
He would come into like different infrastructure meetings, like playing dumb all the time.
Yeah.
And my boss, Shelley, at the time, would level him because she was she'd want to get things done.
Yeah.
And she had no trouble calling him out for him not reading an email or him not ordering something on time. So she was like, she didn't really have anything to gain other than her job was not on the line, but her job was being impaired.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she hated having to do that. And so he always he would sit right by me and come back and be like, can't believe that you would do that thing. Ultimately, though, it reminds me of like a scene from RoboCop.
Excuse me?
Where
I did not expect this I did not expect this episode to include that.
Where
Murphy is riddled with bullets.
His bloody carcass. Where one of the vice presidents introduced Ed 209 as like the next step in police enforcement for Omni consumer products.
Oh, sure, Miguel Ferrer.
And
not that he's not the robot. He's the guy who introduces the robot.
No, I'm talking about like the guy that's like the higher up.
Ronnie Cox?
I don't know.
Because Ronnie Cox is like the big CEO of the company.
Yeah.
I think Miguel Ferrer is the guy who's like in charge of like
not
putting the robot he's like in charge of the robot program.
Well,
he's like the VP in charge of police robots.
Okay, there's two guys I'm thinking of. One is the VP who's like
that job is never on Monster. The VP in charge of police robots. I
have a job alert. I have a job alert set up for it. So I haven't seen it.
There's one guy who's running like the Ed 209 program, and he's like the big bad of the movie. And then there was the sniveling little guy who actually develops RoboCop, who's like the secondary like police enforcement program. So the first introduction of like Ed 209 comes out, and they're like, "Wow!" And he's like, and he blows some nameless VP away,
junior VP in charge of getting blown away by a robot policeman.
And then the second guy, his name is Bob Morton. He's right there, willing to spring and introduce his RoboCop program that the other guy had probably dismissed because it wasn't his idea.
That's Miguel Ferrer.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Like that kind of Weasley-faced guy that does a bunch of cocaine later with the hookers.
Well, enough about Miguel Ferrer. I'm kidding. Rest in peace, Miguel Ferrer.
But I just love that scene as like a perfect... I mean, RoboCop's such a great parody and such a great like sarcastic take on.
Yeah.
The same guy that did Starship Troopers too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah. But what a great movie.
The satire of this
satire. That's
nihilistic
not parodies,
culture.
Satire.
Yeah.
But that was such a great satire of like a boardroom scene just being played out.
Yeah. The competitiveness of capitalism and how it impacts and poisons all these people who work for the results that capitalism demands, which is incredible profits. So, guys, speaking of capitalism, you examined and skewered business by examining one of its biggest tenets, and that is the business meeting. You know what? My whole life, I've kind of before I ever really got into a real career, I remember seeing the movie Office Space, and that was my first intro into this kind of world of business and how people in an office can become kind of institutionalized by the institution of business. And I want to judge this So I'm trading my name as Jeff Judge for Mike Judge. Okay? Jeff Judge is gone now.
What?
I am now Mike Judge because you guys have taken on two different aspects of Office Space, two different characters. Richard, you became Peter, the Ron Livingston character, the guy whose journey goes from kind of half
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, half kind of into it to not giving a fuck. Like when you tell me that you're sleeping through meetings
Right.
and things like that, you've kind of done the whole full-on Ron Livingston thing of kind of tuning out.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. Whatever.
And I think if we're the auditors from out of town to come in, you may be running this place. They
The
see a lot of
Bobs.
potential. The Bobs, and that's I think your observations in regard to things like laughing at kind of the AV BS and lunch, and then kind of why am I here? Kind of questioning that.
Very existential,
Yeah,
wasn't
very
it?
existential.
Why am I here?
Yeah, and then you had your own kind of point of view on that person who was not really had any kind of stake in that movie, but they're kind of participating just so they can said that they were there. Michael, I felt like you went into the Milton territory.
Uh-oh.
The Lord of
Or
the
great.
Flies aspect of Office and your inability to go to the not give a fuck place. You are a person who cares deeply about things, unlike Richard.
Sucker.
Yeah.
Well.
Has beaten you down and putting you into that basement office under the steam pipe, not getting a paycheck anymore.
Don't know if I like the description here.
Well, let's not jump to conclusions, guys.
And just the description
Jump to
of
conclusions.
the
So Matt. the thing.
microcosm for the survival of the fittest in observations, again, like Richard had about the AV stuff or the lunch meeting. And you kind of talk about the hand-to-hand full contact sport of office, being in an office, and how dangerous it was. So I do appreciate that. And like the survival of the fittest, I think like Milton, you will survive us all, damn it. You
He'll
will
be on the beach in the
Yeah.
Bahamas with his 127 million.
Yeah. So here are the arguments that I thought were most compelling. You both hit on the idea of AV stuff and how humiliating it is to try to have a meeting when all the communication tools that are supposed to bring us together tear us apart. So you each get a point for that.
Okay.
And
So what you're saying is that each of us get a point for the AV thing.
yes.
Okay.
Well, you just repeated. Let me mansplain to you. So here's what I did, Richard. And then I thought the idea of the lunch meeting and the stories that we told about going out to lunch and that stuff, there was a really fun way to talk about a different type of meeting that was a lunch meeting. So point for that. And very compelling statement about a microcosm of the survival of the fittest. So you get a point for that. There was something compelling there with the idea of somebody taking up my time when I only need to be in there for 2 minutes. You took an hour of my life and only needed to be for 2 minutes.
Well, enough about this podcast, Jeff.
So, guys, hey, we're long on time.
Oh, yeah, I got another podcast I got
got
to
another
do. Yeah,
podcast?
I got it in my.
Shoot me the notes on this.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
yeah, just ping me.
Ping me later.
All right, so this has been this podcast about business meetings. I've been Jeff.
Richard.
Like,
Did I turn this button off? Is that where's
How
the
do I-
off button?
Okay, do I press which input? Which input are we?